Welcome to my channel. Okay, so one of my awesome subs actually emailed me yesterday with some of the pages from the copy of the book. She actually received a book early somehow. So I'm gonna kind of summarize some of the stuff that I find kind of interesting and some of the pages. She didn't send me all the pages, but she sent me some of them. So until mine gets here and everybody else's gets here, this will be what we have so far. So I'm actually going to read the book on my Patreon account. So if you guys want to check that out, my Patreon account will actually, there'll be a link in the description, so you guys could click on that. That would be awesome, guys. But for this video, I'm just going to kind of summarize some of the stuff that this book talks about here. Okay, so actually I haven't even really read this yet, so you guys are going to get like my first reaction. I kind of skimmed the first couple pages, but that's it. So I'm going to be reading it for the first time with you guys, so it'll kind of get like a first reaction. So I thought that'd be kind of fun to do it that way, where I have no idea what it's going to say. So I'm going to try to just summarize it, but you'll get my first reaction to this book. And that's how I want to do it. Actually, when I do receive it and read it, I'm not going to read it first. I'm just going to read it first with you guys, so you get my first reaction, so we can all have our first reaction together, you know. So first of all, it talks about how Nikki is into some dark things. Like, her and her group of friends supposedly are into some dark things. They don't really go into what the dark things are, at least with the pages that I have. They don't really go into anything, like any specifics. But it says, Christopher says really bad things went on in Nikki's house. Things he is very ashamed of. Some of the things Christopher says he will take to the grave with him. So I'm wondering, does he mean like some things between him and her went on? Because later on in the next page, he talks about her group of friends being into dark things. But here it's saying that really bad things went on in Nikki's house, things that he is very ashamed of. So something between him and her. You know, if you to take a guess what that could be, maybe drugs, you know, drug use could be something that, you know, possibly he's talking about. I could see that, you know, maybe her and her friends are into drugs, and maybe she introduced him to, you know, certain drugs that he tried when he was at her house, and he's ashamed of that. I mean, that's really the only thing I could think of, besides maybe like some satanic ritual type stuff. I don't know if that's where he's going, or maybe I'm thinking maybe like just drug use that they're into. I don't know. I mean, people could label that as dark things, like into like maybe some heavy drugs, possible. Maybe Satanism, possible. He doesn't really say. And like it says, he's going to take it with him to the grave. So I don't think it'll be in here anywhere else in the book, like telling exactly what he means by what dark things. I really don't think he's going to elaborate on that, because what he says right there, taking it to his grave. So think about this though. You know, after, you know, this book gets released and, you know, a couple years pass and everybody starts to forget about Chris, poor little Chris, nobody's talking about him anymore. Maybe he will end up talking about these dark things because he wants the attention. You know, if he's a narcissist, he wants that attention. So, you know, when the attention's off him and he needs something to pull everybody back in, he might very well talk about some of this stuff. He might not take this stuff to the grave. If he's, you know, if basically everybody kind of, you know, all this attention he's getting kind of fades away and he needs to get it back. I mean, come on, what else would get everybody's attention back? For him to share some of the stuff that they did at her house, or even her and her friends. So we very might well in the future find out what these dark things are. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's more like satanic type stuff, or do you think it's like maybe some kind of drug use that they experimented with, whether Nikki's into, and you know, she got Chris to try? I don't know. For some reason, well, I don't know. I really can't say, I guess. But okay, so you know, basically saying that Shanann was beautiful, and they had this beautiful house, and they had beautiful children, and they had all the things that would make a mistress jealous, basically. And she's basically saying, even with Shanann's health problems, she still accomplished a lot. She was still able to accomplish a whole heck of a lot, because that's pretty awesome. You know, lupus is a pretty serious disease, and it knocks a lot of people down, and she was still able to get up and accomplish a lot, even having lupus and, you know, rheumatoid arthritis and all the other stuff that goes along with it. And then it says, you know, how Nikki was unfair watching from the outside. She was very unfair to Shanann. She knew her competition, you know. She knew her competition, but Shanann didn't know hers, because Shanann didn't even have any idea that Chris was cheating on her. You know, she had, you know, some doubt and some suspicious, but she didn't know her competition. And Nikki was well aware of hers. It talks about how Nikki went to the FBI early on because she wanted to basically tell her account of the relationship. But it's saying how, like, she went to him early on to try to make herself not look guilty. And they're saying that her account of the relationships were blatantly not true. Like, they were just not honest. She wasn't being honest, which we all knew about that, because we caught her in all these lies when we were going through, you know, you go through all our interviews and you could catch all the lies. So even if you compare her interviews with each other, and then you compare her interviews with Chris's. But, you know, we know Chris is a liar too. But if you compare all of her interviews, you could catch lies just comparing her interviews, you know, or even in the same interview, like, you could catch lies. So it was pretty obvious that they were both liars. And he's talking about how, you know, Chris enjoyed being with her, and she cared how he felt about things, and she cared about what he thought about, and would ask his opinion. You know, supposedly that Shanann didn't do that, because he's like, oh, I was not used to this. I wasn't used to, you know, a woman caring about my opinion. I remember, this is Chris saying this, and it's saying, since this, it's saying that this is what Chris needed the most. He needed that attention. He needed that woman to care about him and to ask for his opinion. Basically saying that this is what he needed more than the sex. It wasn't the sex that pulled him in. It was this caring and this giving him, you know, his chance to share his opinion and caring what his opinion is. I mean, this is what he's saying. He said he was much more in love with the way she treated him. She made him feel like a man again. She validated his masculinity and gave him the feeling she adored and looked up to him and valued what he had to say. Wow. And then he's saying, like, she knew how to play him, and that she played him like a piano. But he did feel like he had a voice with her, which he did not with Shanann. Now remember, these were his words, not mine. You know, we all knew that he was supposedly claimed he was afraid to be himself around her. He never offered his opinion because he was really asked about how he felt about anything with Shanann. You know how in his second interview he went on about that, on and on about how he was, you know, so afraid to even talk, and he was so nervous around her. Saying he couldn't even talk about, like, vital things with Shanann because she was so bossy. Oh, wow. And his deep love for Nikki gave him the courage to get rid of his family so he could live the life that he deserved. Are you guys hearing this? Oh my gosh, what? Wow. This guy never seems to surprise me. And, you know, like he said before, he never even considered having an affair, or didn't even realize anything was wrong with his marriage until he met Nikki. So, and she was he wasn't looking for an affair, but she was way too much to resist. She was way too much. So, and basically she was playing a dangerous game, and it seemed she pulled out every stop to seduce and intoxicate him. And we know he spent almost all of his time in July with her, but he practically lived at her house. How he didn't even forgot he even had a family when he was with her. And then he's saying, like, she tried to pull him in. You know, her last effort of trying to pull him in was saying how she wanted to give him a son. So, but he's saying, like, that he shared that he shared his first affair with her. Like, that was a first, you know? That was a first. His first affair was with her. So that should have been enough. But that wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. So she had to have another first with him. So she offered to give him a son. And this is where he says that Nikki had a group of friends, he says, were involved in some very dark things. So, and then he can't pinpoint a time that he could feel himself getting darker inside, but, you know, slowly he started getting darker. And asking what Nikki was really like, he suggested reading Proverbs 7:5-27. So, if you guys want to check that out, and then he gives, he gives some of the verses in the next couple pages. So if you guys want to check it out, he said that's what Nikki was really like. So Proverbs chapter 7, verses 5-27. So Chris says that as soon as Nikki told him she wanted to have a son with him, that's when he started planning how he could kill the baby so he could give Nikki their first together. Wow. And then it talks about how Shanann was the only one fighting for the marriage. Chris didn't even try, basically. I mean, we all knew that. It was so sad. So, you know, she's sitting there trying to save the marriage, and he is trying to figure out how to destroy it. He would not even give his marriage another chance. He would not even talk to her about the problems. Would not be honest with her. He let her be the only one in the marriage that had a desire to save it. He had no desire. He did not try one time to talk to Shanann about their problems. Not one time, until the morning that he killed her. It says, like, as soon as the girls went to North Carolina, he had a new sense of freedom. Nikki latched on very quickly, even though he was married with 2 girls. So she didn't care. You know, she knew he was married with 2 girls, and as soon as he had that freedom, she was there to take advantage of every second. She wanted him to stay with her every night. But she had not yet included him in her friend circle. So, but she was ready to right before the murders. And it talks about how in the past she had been in an abusive relationship. So when it was over, she deleted most of her social media. So that's supposedly the reason he's saying why there's no social media. You can't find her anywhere. He's saying because of this abusive relationship she had in the past that she deleted everything. So he even says her mail went to her father's house, she was hiding from someone. And she took medications, but never told Chris why. He suspected she was bipolar. So just because, that don't even make sense, just because she took medications, he just said, wonder what she could be, wonder what's wrong with her. Oh, must be bipolar. I mean, obviously it was because of the way she was acting, you know what I'm saying? So he must have seen some things in her that made him think that she was bipolar. So he still goes, you know, he says she was only at their house twice, the 4th and the 14th. So, and you know how he was off, Chris was off, you know, July 4th. So he stayed the night at her house, like he said. That this story is all the same as far as what he said. How he stayed the night at her house that night. Well, basically July 3rd to the 4th, he stayed at her house. When he woke up, he had a ton of messages from Shanann. So he went outside to call her. She was really mad. You know, Shanann was really mad. He decided to just go home for the rest of the day. So he went inside to tell Nikki. And now it was Nikki's turn to be angry. She said, I thought we were supposed to do something later. And he said, no, I'm just going to go home. And so he's saying for the first time she realized that she was not number one in his life. And she, you know, started thinking, man, maybe Chris is having second thoughts. So now she's starting to get worried, okay? So, and this is his speculation on, you know, what he's thinking is going through her head, okay? So he's saying that he thinks if she left him alone for the rest of the day, he may have turned around. Like he may have decided, okay, I'm going to quit this affair with her. I'm going to quit it. You know, I'm going to try to work it out with Shanann. This is what he's thinking that she was thinking. So Later on, so later on, she shows up at his house. She says telling him that she wanted to help him build a healthy protein diet plan. Okay, so I mean, Chris might actually be right on this one. Like, he tells her, I just want to go home for the rest of the day, and she's worried. Well, what the heck? We were supposed to hang out, so she probably was worried. Shoot, if I don't go over there and he sits there and has all day to think about this, he might change his mind and he might not even talk to me again. So she shows up to his house to make sure that she is still on his mind and he doesn't forget about her. He's saying that she didn't really look around the house much that day. She felt like she couldn't let him be alone. She knew if he was alone in the house with all of the memories and pictures of his family, that he might decide his life was too good to give up. So now it's going on to talk about on the July 14th, the second time that she was at his house. They said they were heading home from that Shelby Car Museum, and they decided to stop at his house before getting something to eat. So she said Nikki played with Dieter, and the dog led her upstairs, and this time she could see what things were really like in his life. Like, she saw pictures of Bella, Celeste, and Shanann. She just kind of saw their life together and realized, whoa, this is a family I'm breaking up. So she came downstairs with the most frozen, dazed, and confused look on her face. So this is when she realized the first time the life he was living in the family that would be broken to pieces because of their affair. So he saw this. So he's like, whoa. So he put his arm around her. He led her to the couch. So she just goes on about this beautiful family and why is he doing this, and how could he be willing to give this up? Asking him, is your relationship that bad with your wife? And he told her that him and Shanann had drifted apart and they didn't talk anymore. He was not even sure in his own head that he believed that fully. And then he told her that before he started seeing Nikki, that him and Shanann actually talked about having another kid. And that's when Nikki freaked out. She started yelling. She said, what the F are you doing with me then? And this is when Chris saw something in her that he had not seen before that made him take notice. So her freaking out. This made Chris take notice. This is something he's never seen her act this way before. Then she goes on to say, your relationship couldn't be that bad if you and Shanann were trying to conceive. And, so she's freaking out. Chris is trying to make her stay, but she didn't want anything to do with it. She just wanted to leave. So she leaves the house, but she ends up just sitting in her car for 30 minutes texting him. And Chris is saying whatever he said to her worked. Because he talked her off the ledge. He was able to talk her off the ledge. So whatever he was texting her worked. And then it says that she wanted him to make her feel better and to come after her, but he didn't. So he's saying that she wanted him to chase after her and try to get her back and try to get her to come back in the house and just to come after her. But he said he didn't do that. But he said that was one of the things that turned him on about her. So she allowed him to calm her down by telling her he did not want another baby with Shanann. So she got calm, she calmed down. She tried to, told her, I don't want another baby with Shanann. So, that calmed her down. But he said that he never did tell her that she was actually already pregnant. So Nikki ended up coming back into the house. She told him he was the only man she ever met that tried to fix the problems. So not only Chris is with somebody for the first time that's treating him in ways that he's never been treated by a woman before. She is with a man. I mean, she's saying wow, this is the first time that she's with somebody that actually tries to fix problems. So, that actually tries to talk things out, so that basically, that wants to communicate and talk through problems. So she's saying she's never had a relationship like that before. So, and he's thinking to himself, wow, actually when he's with Shanann, he never tried to do that with Shanann. So Chris is thinking to himself, wow, I actually never was like this with Shanann, though. I never tried to talk our problems out, So it's not like it was like that in all his relationships. This is the first time he's ever been like that in a relationship where he tries to talk things out. Because with Shanann, he never talked about things. He always just let her make the decisions, and he just assumed that she would never listen to him. So he just assumed, oh, with Shanann, like, oh, she's not going to listen to me anyway. So Chris just kind of kept everything inside and never discussed, never communicated with Shanann. You know, Shanann, that sucks, because that's all Shanann wanted. Shanann wanted him to communicate. Shanann wanted to talk things out. That was the one thing that, you know, bugged her about him, because he wouldn't talk things out. And now he's doing that with her. I mean, that makes me so mad. Like, why, if he's capable of, you know, communicating and talking things out like that with Nikki, why couldn't he do that with Shanann? And that's bullcrap. I don't buy that she wouldn't listen to him. That's all she wanted. Shanann wanted to hear what he was feeling, what he was thinking, and he just you know, kept everything inside. So I don't know. That kind of makes me upset that he could do that for NK, but he couldn't do that for Shanann, and Shanann was begging, you know, to talk. And I'm sure this was during their whole relationship, you know, it was an issue where she wished that he would communicate and he would talk things out, because that's how she was, you know, that's what she wanted to do, and he never did. So she would, you know, accepted it and just, okay, that's just Chris. But really, that's not just Chris, because he's doing it with NK. So it was unfair. That was unfair that he just assumed that Shanann wouldn't listen, because obviously she wanted Chris to communicate with her. So after that, he said NK asked him to come over to her house. So he went to her house. He said they made love, but, you know, she tried to be, you know, all hot and passionate and did some of the things that would normally turn him on. But he said this time it felt different. He felt the guilt, and he said he felt like that he didn't want to be there, you know, this time. He said that even at NK felt it was different. So, and he said they normally would have 4 times a day, and this time, you know, after this happened, it decreased to like 1 to 2 times a day. And he said after, you know, they made love that time, that she told Chris that she got mad because she thought she wanted to give him his first son. So when, you know, Chris told her that him and Shanann were talking about having another kid, it made her feel really mad, and it scared her, because, you know, she wanted to give him that first. And now Chris is saying his reaction to her telling him that made him feel more confident in the relationship with her, because she told him that she was upset and that she wanted to give him his first son. So that made him feel more confident for some reason. And he said after all that, they still went to the Bandimere races on July 21st and camping in the mountains on July 28th and 29th. Okay, so now when Chris was at the airport waiting to leave for North Carolina, NK sent him a text telling him, take this time to fix the issues with your wife and enjoy time with your family. This gave him a warm feeling of no pressure, and he loved her for it. He loved her for it, okay? Because, you know, she just say, oh, take the time to fix all the issues with your wife. Enjoy your time with your family. Yeah, right. And then in the same breath, she's sending him half nude pictures. And the first night Christopher arrived in North Carolina, Shanann had a really bad headache, so she asked Chris to get her something for her headache. So that's when he gave her the 80 milligram oxycodone, which we don't know where he got that, but it's saying on the first night that he had already had that 80 milligram oxycodone. So it makes me think that he had gotten it from someone in Colorado, because he hadn't seen his family yet by that time. Because I know a lot of you guys are thinking, you know, he got it from someone in his family or whatever. But that first night in North Carolina, he hadn't even seen his family yet. So if he's telling the truth that he gave it to her that first night, which I think he is, because if you read her text, that's when she starts feeling nauseous and she vomits and gets sick and stuff, which goes along, you know, with what he's saying on this part. So I feel like he had to have gotten it from somebody in Colorado. He really had. I mean, that's my opinion. But anyway, he said the pill made her sick and she was up vomiting most of the night. And we know that from, you know, like I said, from reading her text. So he said he didn't help her. Didn't even help her. You know, she's feeling nauseous and sick. He didn't help her because he wanted her to lose the baby. And he said he felt he had given her a large enough dose to miscarry. Which is a weird choice of a drug to give to somebody to miscarry. Because that, I mean, chances are, you know, one time taking an oxycodone is not going to make you miscarry. But I don't know. We all know that he's not the smartest person when it comes to common sense or other sense. But anyway, so he said that he texted Nikki that night that he wouldn't be able to call her, just text her. And she replied, "Why not? Are you with her?" Yeah, he's with her. You just supposedly texted him when he was at the airport. Go spend time with your family. Go fix things. Go enjoy your family. And now it's like, why are you with her? Like, what? I mean, this, wow, I don't even know what to think. Oh, and then he says, yeah, and he thought she wanted him to spend time with her. So that put the pressure back on him. Poor Chris has all this pressure on him. Like, do you see how this is I, like so narcissist, so selfish, so all about himself and what, you know, how hard this was on him and the pressure and like, what? Are you kidding me? See, this stuff like this makes me think that no, he isn't, he is not remorseful and he has not found God, because God is selfless. Like, Jesus was so selfless. Like, if he's trying to follow, you know, in his, trying to follow like his teachings and what he was about, I mean, this is so far from that, it makes me sick. This is the most selfish comments, the most selfish things that I don't even know what to say. Like, it's not, it just makes it so hard to believe that he is feeling bad about this. And that, I'm sorry, if he had the chance, I feel so strongly that if he had a chance to either have his family back or be with Nikki, he would pick being with Nikki. I really believe that. I believe that, like, so much. I believe that. So Chris is saying how normally he would, you know, try to please Shanann and, you know, just do anything, take care of her. But the next 8 days he ignored her, completely ignored her. You know, and she would try to have sex and he would leave the room when she would try. He said he wasn't intimate with her the entire week. So he said, you know, he felt like he had to ignore her and, you know, basically not give her any time to even talk. Or so he didn't give her any time. Shanann, when he was in North Carolina, he didn't even give her the time of the day. And he said he had to do this so he could disappear, so he could talk to NK. He had to disappear so he could talk to her for hours on the phone. But this is the woman that supposedly is saying, go spend time with your family, enjoy them. But she's talking to him hours on the phone, sending him these pictures, these half-naked pictures. Bull crap, I don't buy it. And so it's saying when he returned to Colorado, he went to Nikki's using his work truck. So remember that day where he went to her house, the day that they had the ultrasound? So he went after work to her house right before the ultrasound. Remember, Nicole Atkinson was saying how he showed up late and he was just acting real cold. Anyway, that day NK gave him a key to her place, which he's saying she withheld that information from the FBI. She never told the FBI that she actually gave him a key. So to Chris, this meant, well, she's ready to take the next step forward in the relationship. So he told her he was moving forward with the separation. He promised NK that the relationship with Shanann was going to end, even though he had not talked to Shanann about it yet, but he promised her, this is going to end, I promise, okay? And Shanann, was thinking that they're going to try to work it out. They're, hoping to go to counseling and hopefully they could talk this out. Like, that he wouldn't just give up on a, 8-year relationship or 8-year marriage. I think it was, weren't they married for 8 years? I think it was 8 years. But anyway, I think they got married in 2012. So, yeah, 7 or 8 years. I mean, well, 6 years. But I think 8 years is, the relationship was 8 years. Maybe, I think. I don't know why I remember the year 8 years. So maybe they were married for 6, and were they together for 2 years before they got married? I don't know. But anyway, quite a few years, okay, that he was willing to just throw it away and not even try to work on it, you know? So she's thinking, no, you know, he's going to try to work on it. He's not going to just throw this away that quick, you know? So she's hoping. So she orders this book, and he just throws it away. Because Chris says that's the day that he realized he cannot have NK and his family at the same time. It's the first time he realized that, he's saying. So, you know, he just threw away that book because he knew, nope. He knew it was time to get rid of what was standing in the way of him and NK being together. And he can make that happen. Wow. He said that he had his nerve up, but it wasn't that he was going to be a man and talk to Shanann about what's going on and tell her that he's in love with another woman and that he you know, wants to divorce and wants to separate. No, he can't be a man. His nerve, his courage was to kill them, to get rid of them. Like, what? Wow. Like, yeah, I got my nerve up, you know. I can't just be a decent person and just tell her that this isn't working, or that, you know, I'm in love with somebody else, but I have to get rid of you guys. Like, I can't even fathom that. Like, that's just, oh my gosh, this man. See, this book is kind of bouncing all around, okay? So now they were in North Carolina, and then she's talking about when he gets home, and now she's going back to when they were in North Carolina, okay? So now back to when they're in North Carolina, they've planned a little vacation in Myrtle Beach, okay? So, you know, he's saying that Shanann thought he's thinking that maybe Shanann thought if they get away together for a little bit, a few days, that maybe they could, you know, work things out. And she tried to do that, but he wouldn't even she tried to, you know, talk to him and work it out, but he wouldn't even give her the time to talk. Wouldn't even give her the time of day. Like, what? Wow. Can't even be a man and just at least give her the time to talk and at least communicate a little bit of what's going on. And he wouldn't even give her that. And he's saying the only reason he was there was for the girls. Yeah, right. We know how you felt about the girls. You know? Obviously, you didn't care about your girls. I mean, for you to be able to do that twice to them, oh my gosh. Man. But he's saying even, not only was Shanann getting on his nerves, but even the girls were getting on his nerves. Then it says how Shanann knew that the fight between her and Chris' parents had really affected him. So she's thinking, she can't figure out, like, why is he being like that? Like, nothing happened. So, you know, she's thinking, well, maybe it has something to do with that fight that I had with his parents. So she's thinking, you know, that could be the reason why he's acting so cold and weird, you know, just rude and weird and just, you know, just. Okay, so Shanann has no idea why he's acting that way. She has no idea. She's trying to replay things in her head. Like, what happened? Like, it was fine before I left, and now he's being so cold and so different. So she's thinking that it might have something to do with that fight that she had between, you know, with his parents. So she trying to, you know, works things out with Chris and trying to, you know, make him happy and just trying to fix, you know, what she thought that maybe she's done, like maybe the fight that she had with the parents had affected him. She was trying to fix that, okay? So she sent a picture of the ultrasound to Ronnie and Cindy, introducing them to their grandson. So, and I guess they didn't even respond, so I don't know. So she was, you know, she was trying to do the right thing. She thought, you know, she was seeing how Chris was acting, thinking, wow, you know, maybe this fight I had with his parents really affected him, and, you know, maybe I should try to repair that and try to work things out with his parents. So, she sends him the ultrasound picture, and nope, they didn't respond. So back to Nikki now. I don't know, this book kind of jumps all over the place. It's kind of hard to follow, but I mean, it's not hard to, it would be hard to follow for people that didn't know all the details like all of us. Like, we know every little detail, so when it jumps back and forth, we know exactly where it's at, because we know all the details. But for somebody that doesn't know this story like we do, this would kind of be hard to follow, I feel like, because it jumps around a lot. But okay, so Nikki, she was excited where things were going and started to tell her friends about Chris. So now she's telling her friends, her dark friends, which, like I said, I don't think we're at least not going to know from this book what he means by dark things, but maybe eventually he will maybe come forward when he needs that attention, like I was saying. But so that's when he decided he needs to delete his Facebook account, because he was afraid that her friends would see that Shanann was pregnant. So, but it's like he doesn't even mention in this, like, that maybe that Nikki would see. Wouldn't that be the one person you would more be concerned about, that Nikki would see if she was pregnant rather than her friends? So that makes me think, did she know about that? Because why isn't he stressing that? Do you guys think she knew about Shanann being pregnant? That Chris had told her, maybe? Or she found out and Chris knew that she knew? I don't know. Part of me thinks maybe she did know. But of course, she saw that he took the Facebook page. Shanann saw that she took his Facebook page down, and that was another red flag to Shanann. Like, whoa, something is not right. So she asked Chris, let's have a little getaway to try to repair our marriage. Let's spend a weekend in the mountains. So they wanted to spend a weekend in Aspen. So she found somebody to watch the girls, and Chris agreed to it. But he already knew he would not be going, because he already knew that he was going to get rid of them. But he just agreed to satisfy her in the moment, because he was already planning on how to kill her and the girls, and was daydreaming about getting rid of his baggage and starting a new life with Nikki. He was daydreaming about it. Oh my gosh, I just can't. Wow. He's saying with his new life, he'd be able to get rid of all of his old life, like all of the stresses of his old life, like the house mortgage, the big bills, his family. I don't even know. This just shows you an evil man right here. And it even says that Shanann was thinking about canceling the trip to Arizona. But she decided to go anyway. But her heart was just not in it, since they had just been apart for so many weeks and things had not gone well. So she's probably thinking, man, I don't know if this is a good idea to go, because, we've been apart for so long already. And so it's also saying that this affair kept him from looking at things logically, okay? So he didn't realize the consequences, at least he didn't think about them. So he agreed to go away with her that next weekend, just the two of them, okay? So he told her, don't cancel your trip to Arizona. So because of course he saw that as another chance he gets to spend with NK. So of course he wanted her to go. So he said, yeah, go ahead and go on your trip. So he said, we'll talk when you get home. Okay. So this gave her the hope that, maybe, maybe we'll be able to work things out. Maybe things are getting better. Because remember when she was texting her friends, like, I saw like a hint of Chris. He was actually kind of acting like himself again. He agreed to counseling. He agreed to talk. And we even catch on her text to him, she thanks him for letting her hold him. Like, thanks for letting me hold you last night. Or I don't know her exact words, but remember that text that she sends to him that morning that she went to Arizona. So, but still, that weekend had to be hard for her. I mean, she's pregnant, she's having morning sickness, she has these marital problems. Her husband won't even touch her. I mean, and she's got to go away on this trip. And I mean, she was miserable. Like, even her friends were telling her, like, or friends were saying how she just, was so sad, you know. So I feel like, you know, right that morning when she was leaving, she kind of felt good. She kind of felt like this hope back, because like, I guess she, like I said, he let her hold him when they were sleeping, and he said they would work on things, they would talk, they go to counseling and stuff. And then I think like the next day he started maybe avoiding the text and the phone calls again. So and then that bill that she saw for $62. So then she started getting, you know, depressed again, and started getting like, oh man, maybe this isn't going to work. That's kind of how I saw it. And of course, we all know she was not willing to stop fighting for the marriage. She was going to keep fighting for it. She loved him. She loved her family. She wanted to work it out. And he didn't even, that thought didn't even cross his mind. It didn't even cross his mind. All he thought about was Nikki. That's the only thing that he cared about. Not even his kids. Didn't even care about his kids. So he keeps talking about these 3 chances God gave him. 3 chances, he's saying, okay? And this was one of them. He talks about this time where, so 3 chances that God gives him to turn around from this affair, okay? And the things he was planning of getting rid of his family, okay? So one of them, he says, was he was on his way to NK's house, okay? On one evening, I think he was talking about that Saturday. He's on his way to NK's house, and he felt God kept urging him to turn around, okay? But he didn't do it. He kept going, knowing that he should just turn around and go home. He knew, I mean, he's saying like he realized, he knew like I should just turn around. And he said he felt God urging him to turn around, but he just kept going. And then he said all of a sudden his car started to skid, like it was going to go off the road. He almost lost control, knowing immediately that God was trying to turn him around. So you're saying at that moment you knew that was God trying to turn you around, but you ignored God and just went anyway? No, I don't know if I buy that either. I think now that he's looking back, maybe he sees it as God, but I feel like at the time, I don't know if I believe that he saw that as God trying to turn it around at the time. Because why would you ignore God? I mean, I know that sounds silly, but I feel like now, like, looking back, he looks at it like maybe that was, or looks at it as that was God trying to tell me. But I just don't think in that moment that that's what he was thinking. If it was, then how evil that he still went, you know, that he didn't listen to him. I mean, well, how stupid. So he keeps going. He's saying there was no other explanation why he started to lose control, you know. So he's saying that this was his first chance that God gave him to get out of the situation, okay? Okay, now it says that he was either trying to rid himself of guilt by going to NK's. I don't understand, how is that going to rid him of guilt by going? I don't know. I don't get that statement. But it says, or he didn't have any guilt at all, which is very possible, since he felt no remorse or guilt after he killed them. So of course he didn't have any guilt or remorse. Of course, I feel like he was not able to feel that, okay? You would call him a narcissist, psychopath, sociopath. I don't know which one that he falls under specifically, but I think we all could tell that he was unable to feel any empathy. He was unable to feel any remorse. He was unable to just feel anything for anybody but himself. So I think we could all agree to that. So, you know, that's one of the traits of either a psychopath or a sociopath. So I don't, or, you know, a covert, like everybody thinks, which is a good possibility, you know, that he's a covert narcissist. So, but all we all know, all we could tell from this is that he definitely doesn't feel that. He doesn't. So he definitely has some kind of personality disorder, something going on that's just not right. So it's saying he was falling out of love with Shanann, and the only thoughts he ever had about her was just trying to get rid of her and his kids. And he's questioning, did he really actually fall in love with Nikki, or did he fall in love with the way she treated him? Okay, Nikki was not like anyone he had ever met. He loved her touch, her conversation, her beauty. He thought she brought out the best in him. Yet she actually was bringing the darkness out of him. So yeah, he had an addictive craving for her when he wasn't with her. Man. So yeah, she definitely brought out the worst of him, you know. And it just, I just wish we knew if there was drugs involved, because I mean, drugs could play a big part in this like fake feelings of this love or infatuation or obsession, you know, because that could play into it. Like you're high on some drug can intensify those feelings, you know, and then you're sharing that experience with somebody else. So I wish he would just be open, because isn't this supposed to be a book? Isn't he? It's supposed to just lay it all out on the table. So, you know, just be completely open. Well, why is he keeping so many things then? Just lay it all out then, Chris. Why won't you tell us some things? Like, if drugs are involved, I feel like if you want to be open, and that's something that's very important, like to kind of like analyze it and studying this case and studying your behaviors and you know, trying to understand how this all happened and, you know, why this all happened. And I just feel like if drugs were a part of this, then it's important to share that so we could kind of, you know, analyze it through the right set of circumstances, you know, because I don't know. I wish you would. I just wish you would let us know. I just feel like it's important to know if were you high, was because the like craving of drugs is so strong in itself. So was this something that played a part in this whole thing? You know, I mean, I know you're probably trying to protect NK, and you think maybe she'll get in trouble if you say that there is drugs involved. I don't know. I think someday it'll come out, but I just wish we knew now so we could, you know, when we look at this, we have all the facts. So he talks about like how her friends were urging her to ask if there was someone else, and you know, she didn't right away, but then she did later on. She did start to ask him daily, several times, if there was someone else. And she never had to worry about, you know, Chris cheating on her or making her feel anything but important to him, because he had always treated her, you know, like she was the most important thing, I guess, is what he's saying. And, you know, she would never worried about that before. So, I mean, I guess he, you know, he said the only answer he'd give her is he didn't know what was going on in his head, you know. So we know by reading her text what he was saying, just like, you know, he had to work it out in his head, and just he doesn't know what's going on in his head, and a bunch of crap. And it seemed like the last thing she thought was him having an affair, because she just, you know, she thought she knew him, and that was just the last thing that she thought he would. It's just the last thing she thought he would do, you know. And then he goes on. This is a new chapter. He goes on to say, during that time he felt dark. He felt that he had definitely changed, and not for the good. Okay. And he says, like, you know, some people are going to say that this sounds like he's blaming the murders on something else. But he said it's not the case. So he's saying that darkness would have to fill a person who could plan to kill his family because he has a mistress he wants to be with. So he's saying, I mean, it would have to be some kind of darkness or some kind of evilness that would have to come over someone to be able to kill their whole family because of a mistress. Well, yeah, that's what we're saying. You're evil. Like, it's not a normal thing for somebody to be able to do that. And it's not like you're just evil one day and you're not the other. I mean, this is something that you are, like, that you have inside of you. It's not like that you, like, one day you would feel empathy and remorseful and guilt and like feel all those feelings, and then one day it would just go away. That's not how it works. This is something that had to be inside you for a while, you know. And And he says, darkness enters through a person's mind and makes one feel it's fine to plan and carry out dark things. The individual reasons away the good and makes the bad choice. And here we go. This is, remember how she talks about that after you read this book that he might be able to, well, after this book comes out that it'll give him a chance to maybe be able to appeal. I think this is what she's talking about here. It says, was Christopher temporarily insane that morning or oppressed by a dark spirit? Whatever it was, it prevailed. So are they trying to go with the insanity defense? Is that what she's trying to say? You may wonder, is this what she promised Chris? I don't know. I mean, you know how, I don't want to say that she promised him anything but to tell his story. But remember, she did say something like, well, it'll be like a grounds for an appeal after, you know, after this book comes out. And then she's talking about, was he temporarily insane? Which that's one of the reasons that a charge could be acquitted, that if you can prove the person is insane. So is that the route they're going to try to go? I don't know. What do you guys think? And then he's saying, knowing what we do about what was about to happen in hindsight, it's not hard to look at it as a darkness that was hovering over their home that fateful morning. You know what that darkness was that was hovering over the home? You were that darkness that was hovering over the home. I mean, obviously, and he's saying Shanann didn't know. She may not have felt anything unusual, yeah, because she trusted her husband. You know, it's not normal for someone to feel like their husband's gonna murder you and your kids. I mean, that's just not something that crosses somebody's mind every day, you know, or any time. It just shouldn't. I mean, and saying his plan is lurking over his home. Yeah, he must have felt empowered knowing all the things are going as planned. What, all the things are going as planned? So what was all going as planned? And then it goes on to talk about how all the stuff posted on YouTube about spirits and sightings that were left in the home. You know, some of the videos like in the closet where you hear the laugh, and there's other videos where they take the police body cam videos and you could hear different whispers. I mean, I hear it too. I don't know what it is, but you could hear whispers. You could hear that laugh, like I said. You could see that that shadow, and it looks like a kid on the stairs. There's just different things. So obviously he is hearing all this stuff, probably his mom and his family, or maybe even her, Sherilyn, I don't know, but she's obviously, or somebody's telling him this stuff about the spirits and the sightings and all this stuff because he knows about it. So, well, actually, now, hold on, is she talking about, okay, maybe I'm getting confused because sometimes it's like, is she talking about, is this him saying that or her saying that? Maybe that was just her saying that because she was aware of the spirits and sightings. Maybe she's just saying that. I don't know. Is she saying that he was thinking that? Whatever. But I think besides the point, I think he is aware of a lot of this stuff that goes on YouTube. So, and then she's saying, so I don't know if this is something that's like he's saying or she's just saying, but she's saying the person buying the house next should definitely have the house blessed. So yeah, now that I'm reading this again, I'm thinking it's just her is what she's saying about the YouTube and the spirits and in the and having the house blessed. It sounds like that's what, you know, it's her talking, but besides the point, like I said, we know that he knows, he's aware of a lot of the stuff that goes on. And this is, I don't know if this is her opinion or Chris's opinion, but it says, if there were spirits in that home, they are not the spirits of Shanann, Nico, Bella, and Celeste. They aren't hating and mad. They are in the most beautiful place there could ever be. So she's saying that Shanann, Nico, Bella, and Celeste, they're not hating or mad, but they're in the most beautiful place there ever could be, heaven. And then she brings up Sandy says in her experience was beautiful and did not feel like a haunting. Any kind of spirit that haunts is evil. And then she talked about how Chris even talked about how eerie his house was after the murders. Well, yeah, because an evil thing had just taken place in there. Like, you just did the most evil thing in the world. Of course it's going to be all eerie. I mean, I don't know. See, this makes you wonder, are they going to try to say, like, he was possessed, or there's these spirits that took over his body, or that he was insane, or that he thought that he felt that way? So, I mean, insanity and, like demonic possession are kind of what one person might think is a demonic possession, another person would view as insanity, like the person's just insane, and some people might say, well, no, they were possessed. And it's kind of like, it just depends on how you're viewing it and what your beliefs are on how you determine what you think it is. So, you know, some people would say, like, no, I was possessed by the devil. But, like, you sit down with a psychiatrist and they're going to look at it like, okay, you're insane. Like, it's insanity. You're insane. Like, so I feel like this might be the route that they're going to try to get this appeal, which is going to make me so mad. If this appeal comes out, you guys, we better fight this. We better get this petition going, and we better get a bunch of petitions going or whatever, because I know everybody has a right to an appeal. Even the murderers have a right to appeal. But I really don't think there's any chance that he would get out. But if there is even a small chance, we cannot let that happen. He does not deserve to be out. And it says, how is a man's love for his children isn't more powerful than the act of murdering them? Exactly. How? And then she's saying the forces of evil are not greater than the forces of good unless we have allowed that evil to take deep root. So, see, it's kind of like talking about, it's almost like trying to convince people that he was insane or possessed, or, like I said, however you look at it. But it says Chris had read that fathers do not kill their children, but he did. Okay? So why was Christopher not able as a grown man to see the consequences? No one can imagine the conflict of good and evil that must have gone in his head. Yet he says when his mind went to getting rid of his family, it stayed there. It was one of the things that Chris didn't tell the FBI. So, I mean, I feel like she's trying to say that basically this wasn't an act of a reasonable, sane, grown man to do this, to murder his family like that, and not see the consequences. So basically, I feel like what they're trying to say, she's trying to say that a normal grown man would not murder his family like this if he basically was aware of what was going on, like if he was sane, if he could fight off the evil, like it's talking about the conflict between good and evil. Yet he couldn't fight off the evil. So I feel like they're going to try to use this for an appeal, like that he had no choice, like that evil overpowered him, which it did, but it was like that. I feel like they're going to say like that he couldn't control his actions, like he didn't have a choice, like the evil just overtook him and it wasn't him. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't have a choice. So whether you're going to look at it as like a possession or insanity, you know what I'm saying? Like that he just wasn't in the right state of mind. He wasn't able to choose the good, like he didn't have a choice almost, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I feel like they're trying to say that like the normal person would, and the normal Chris wouldn't have done that, but something overpowered him to do it, and he didn't have a choice. The evil just overpowered him, and that's bullcrap, because he had a choice, and I feel like he's avoiding ownership on what he did. Like he needs to take responsibility. If he is so sorry and he found God and he's so remorseful, then he needs to own up to what he did. and not just blame it on this power that he had no control over. And they're talking about like the thought of killing his girls did not just come into his head that morning. This is something that he's been fantasizing about for a while. He planned Shanann's murders, and he planned the girls' murders. So right there tells you that it wasn't just this possession, unless if, okay, so for a couple weeks he was basically temporarily insane for like 2 weeks planning these murders, and you know, or possessed for like these 2 weeks, whatever route. It just depends on what. The thing is with that, something like that, it depends on each individual what their beliefs are as how they would see that, either as possession or insanity. You know what I'm saying? So depending on who's reading this, each person will look at it differently. But back in the day, like they used to, back in the day in the history of psychology, they would lock people up that had like these personality disorders, bipolar, psychopaths, sociopaths, just people that had these personality, or schizophrenic, that would hallucinate things. They would actually lock them up and would basically think they were possessed. They thought they were possessed by the devil, you know. So back before they understood, you know, mental health, they just viewed it as like this possession, that they were possessed by evil, possessed by, you know, demons, or you know, the devil or whatever. They were possessed, so they would just lock them up and like chain them up, and you know, sometimes they would do exorcisms on them, and you know, if it didn't work, they just were locked up in chains and stuff before they actually started to fully understand mental health and these disorders, that it wasn't actually a possession, but it was this mental disorder that a lot of people have, you know, that, you know, there's medicine for a lot of it that actually could help it. It helps a lot of the symptoms. So I just feel like they're trying to use that. It looks like he's gonna try to use that for an appeal, like claim that he was insane or possessed, like I said. However, it just depends on your beliefs, how you're gonna view that, the specifics of that. But like the symptoms are the same, but like why are they experiencing that is going to be viewed differently depending on who, the beliefs of the person, every person, you know. So but the symptoms are all the same. Does that make sense? Like all his actions and the symptoms, but the why will be different depending on people's beliefs. And it's just saying, you know, if it wasn't for NK, that he wouldn't have done it. And he knows, you know, that's the reason he did it, because he wanted to be with NK no matter what, even if it meant to kill his family. He wanted to be with her. Those feelings of wanting to be with her were so strong that, yeah, he was willing to get rid of his whole family for that. And I guess he said when his mom would keep asking him, like, why'd you do this? And he ended up telling her, you'll find out when you read the book. So now it's going back to when they got home from North Carolina. So, man, this book does skip around a lot. This is just in the same, like, chapter, like, the next paragraph, we're back to, you know, them coming home from North Carolina. Okay, so saying that the day Shanann and her girls left North Carolina would be the last time they would ever make that trip, and the last time she would hug her family goodbye. Think about that. He knew that as he's watching her hug her family goodbye. He knows his plans and what he's going to do, and he's knowing that was the last time she would see her family, and their family would see them. This is some evil stuff, man. So now it's talking about Shanann left for her trip to Arizona, and Chris and the girls stayed home. So that Saturday evening is when Chris told Shanann he was going to go to the game with the guys. Remember, he told her that, and really he was going on a date with NK. So, you know, they got a babysitter, and this is the first time that Chris had ever gotten a babysitter when Shanann had been gone. So we know that him and NK went out to dinner, and then he said, you know, about the whole gift card thing, but all the gift cards were used, so he charged it on his personal account. And then, you know, he talks about how so his friend had tickets to a football game and asked Chris to go. And Chris said he did think about just telling NK that he couldn't get a babysitter, and that and actually just go to the game with his friend. And that was chance number 2, he's saying. That was the second chance God gave him to turn things around and just end this affair with Nikki, okay? So, but he didn't. He ignored that second chance God gave him, and he still went. So he's saying that he told her how much he spent. I feel like I remember her saying she found out because she got a notice, but it's almost like seeming like he's saying that he told her how much he spent, because it was almost like his way of telling her about the affair without telling her about, because remember it was like $62. So I'm not sure if I have a feeling that she saw it on her, she got a notification, and then she questioned him and he just didn't deny it. It was like, oh yeah. But he's almost making it seem like that he told her. But anyway, so yeah, he's saying basically that was the closest he could get to telling her about NK. And then it's talking about how an average affair lasts 6 to 8 weeks, and basically, the affair was within that time frame. So had it been under normal circumstances and had been left alone by Nikki even a little, he would have turned around. What? I don't know if I buy that. So they're saying like, if Shanann wasn't in North Carolina and, under normal circumstances, he was able to spend some time away from NK, that an average affair is 6 to 8 weeks, he probably would have, stopped the affair or something if he had some time without Nikki to actually realize what he was doing. I don't know if I'm buying that one, but... And they're saying that if that would have happened, Shanann probably would have forgiven him and just put their marriage back together if she'd been given the opportunity. So now I think it's going back to where they're home, and Shanann, they get back from North Carolina. So saying NK was worried about Shanann being back, so she had to dig her nails in a little deeper. So she did. And they're saying that, well, why was killing on Chris's mind? He said he could feel himself going back and forth in his head about killing them. Remember we were all wondering if they did a drug test, did they do a psychological exam on him when they arrested him? And he says no. He says there was never a toxicology test or a psychological exam done on Chris. The toxicology test wouldn't make sense because they did not arrest Chris until a few days after the murders. But a psychological exam is usually done automatically. It would have made sense to have a complete workup done on him. Otherwise, who knows what was wrong with him, okay? So why is he even bringing that up about the toxicology? Like, why he's saying, like, well, it was a couple days after the murder, so it wouldn't have made sense. I mean, is that his weird way of admitting that maybe he was on something when he murdered them? I don't know. But, so I guess he's saying that his attorneys told him, no, that if they had if he let them do an exam, anything he said could be held against him, and the courts would hear everything he said. So since he pled guilty, that shouldn't have mattered unless it had something to do with the future. So yeah, I don't understand. Who cares in court if he was pleading guilty? Why does it matter? He doesn't really have a future. I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but like, he already pled. If he was going to plead guilty, who cares if it was known in court? Oh, I guess, for his family and everybody else, because how he cares so much more about what everybody else thinks. But so he didn't want a psychological exam done, and now he's saying that if he does decide to have one done, that it would be an expense, and he has no money. So that would depend upon his parents to pay for it. Is that true? I mean, wouldn't they be happy not happy, but wouldn't they do one for free? Because, I mean, this is like, it'll go into research about, people that do this to understand their minds. I don't think that they would, if he didn't have the money, that they would just be like, oh no, we can't do it. I feel like they would want that research. They would want that information to be known so they could understand these types of people. So I don't know if I believe that. Is that true? That he would have to pay for it, or his mom, or his parents, or whatever? And he's saying that his parents would be willing to pay for one, but Chris doesn't want one. So what I think is, it has not. I don't think it has anything to do with the money, because I think they would do it without him paying. 'Cause like I said, I think they would want that information, but I just don't think he wants one. You know, maybe he's afraid about what they would find out. And it says, is it worse to find out you are insane and realize you do not live in reality, or you are not insane but have the capability to murder your whole family? Maybe he's afraid that they're going to come to the conclusion that he's not insane, and he still wants that chance to maybe use that for an appeal. So maybe he's still trying to work out a way to get all his facts straight on what he needs to say and what he needs to act like to claim insanity. You know what I'm saying? So it could be that he's still maybe researching and trying to figure out, what some of the symptoms would be and how he would need to be acting and say he felt back then to be able to claim that. Because if he does a psychological exam and they come to the conclusion that he's fine, he's not insane, then how could he ever use that for an appeal? So I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it rather than anything else. Okay, so I'm going to continue this on my next video, because I don't want one video to be too long, so the second part will be coming after this. Alright, bye guys, have a good one. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below and let me know what you guys think of it so far, okay? Alright, have a good one.